guys, I'm Brian.
And I'm Terry.
And welcome back to another episode in our Forest to Farm series here on Survival Dispatch. Today we are finally getting close to preparing for footings.
Yeah,
but
definitely.
It's been a long time coming.
We cut a lot of trees.
Yeah.
Dug up a lot of stumps.
Had a ton of rain.
Ground a lot of brush up.
Yeah.
Or chipped.
So much work.
And then we moved dirt, and then we cut down more trees and chipped up some more brush.
Little word of advice. If you buy a forest, you will never be done cutting down trees.
No, we had one fall in the neighbor's property the other day. Had to come out here and clean it up.
There's always trees.
Yeah.
But today we're dealing with footings and water flow. So we are getting close to digging out for my footing, and in doing so, we need to, most people come in, just dig out, throw a footing in, and then worry about the ground around it later.
And working construction, we have seen countless houses.
Countless times.
The water, we're like, when we pull up to the job, we're like, that house is going to have a wet basement.
Yeah.
Sure enough, the water runs down the hill and right in the crawl space.
Yeah.
I mean, how can they miss that?
When we slightly roughed out where my house is going, piled the dirt up on the embankment behind it to help divert water from going in there and softening the soil too much. And now what we're going to do is we're going to measure and get the exact slope now that we've kind of roughed out the area around it. We want to know how much drop I have for the width of my house in that whole area, and then see, we want roughly 5 blocks high for my foundation, or 40 inches, because they're 8-inch blocks. And we want to see, is that going to work out once we knock that top mound of dirt we added off? And also we want to shape the ground behind my house to divert water around the house site while we're building.
We want to establish a landscape that no matter where you're at around that house, it slopes away from the house.
Yeah.
At least, 20 feet or better.
Yeah.
We want water going everywhere but where that house is at.
Exactly. And it's more work up front, more planning, but as they always say, if you don't plan, you plan to fail, or something like that.
Yeah,
basically, plan ahead. And this is a little more work up front, but it is so worth it in the end, because
how many houses have we crawled under in water trying to wire the house, and we're in a foot of water?
You get on the plastic and it's like a water bed. It's just squishy.
Like, whoa.
So this work is worth it in the end, especially, we did this a while back, and we had 1.5 years of rain keep us from getting out here and getting started after we did this.
It rained every moment we had a spare moment. Every time.
Yeah, every time we had a spare moment, it was raining in the days leading up to and the days after. We had more wet days than dry days every week for 1.5 years.
Mm-hmm.
And had we not done this, it would have washed away my crawl space with the amount of rain, water flow we had coming down the hill.
It would have been deeper in areas than we wanted it, definitely.
Yeah, so much more.
It would have been a mess.
In this video, we're going to be taking you through the steps we went through to figure out the slope and figure out the depth my crawl space needed to be. So I guess we'll just go ahead and jump into that, and we'll catch you guys on the flip side. What are we doing today?
Well, we're going to show you a little bit about what we're doing out here as far as setting up to put some footing and foundations in.
We're almost there.
Yes.
We just have to work the water around where my house is because we got a nice slope.
Yeah, there's...
I'm going to put Dad on camera here for you.
If you look up this way, the ground here is higher. Comes down. The house starts about where these pink flags are. You can see that post over there. Can you see that?
Yeah.
And Brian's house will be setting right there. Mine's on down the hill. We'll worry about that later. Right now, we want to take the water coming down this hill. We don't want it just plowing into the side of the house and then soaking the crawl space. So we want to take the dirt at the back of the house and slope it back on the uphill side, but downhill from the house, and then let that hill be a little bit steeper, and they're going to form a trough or ditch, and then that's going to be shaped so that it goes all the way around the house site and send water down through the woods that way and out back through the woods, which is eventually going to be field back there. So,
but it's going to be a nice looking ditch.
Yeah, it is. I mean, it's just going to be a contour in the ground,
Yeah.
So anyway, we're kind of planning this out on paper. We overkill everything, but the more you plan, the less mistakes you make. So we want to, first thing we want to do is kind of figure out, well, what's the slope here? We're going to draw it on paper. And I said, well, should I draw the line like this or like this? How steep is it? So the first thing we're going to do is show you how we're laying this off, just to get, we put 2 stakes out here just to figure out what is the actual slope. So when we draw it on paper, we can say, okay, this is at 30 feet, it drops a foot or a foot and a half, whatever, and we can draw that on paper and then start laying everything off and get a better idea how it's going to look on paper before we actually come out here and do the work. Might be a little bit of overkill, but we're going to do it. So let's get started. All right, so we got our little handy dandy string here, and we're going to hook it around this post like so. Ooh. Now the dummy in me is going to come out because I'm not sure how to tie this off. All right, so I've got the string tied to that stake down there, and we're going to slip this string over here just to give us a little reference. And we got this little string bubble level you can see. So we're going to come out here, I guess roughly in the middle, and hook it on here. Man, that's pretty close already. I need to take this side up or that side down, don't I? How's that look?
That's pretty close.
You tell me when it gets level.
Center.
That's it?
Yep.
Okay. So as you can see, the bubble level is centered. It's hanging on this string. Now we can come down here. And since this string is level, we can see that the ground is right at 29 inches drop from this point, 30 feet away, which would be this, by the way. This line represents the front of Brian's house. So this is the side. It's actually between the garage, but we're just measuring it here. But anyway, so this is the front of the house. So at the front of the house, from this point, it's 29 inches down. You come back here, and we're looking at about 17 inches down. So we'll just note that for now. When we draw this drawing out in the shop, we know that at 30 feet,
we've got a foot drop.
We've got a one foot drop. Yeah. No, what was it, 29?
29, 17, it's 12.
Man, that couldn't get any better. So it's one drop in 30 feet. One foot drop in 30 feet. So, okay. We want a 40-inch crawl space, which is 5 blocks high. We're going to do a block foundation. So if it's going to be 40 inches high and we want 2 blocks out of the ground, we're going to have 3 blocks under the ground, which is 2 feet under the ground. So if it's 2 feet under the ground on the front, we got to figure out what do we want under the ground back here and be able to have the dirt high enough that it will slope away from the house.
And we want 1 block exposed on the back of the house.
And 1 block exposed. Gets a little complicated. That's why we're going to draw all this out on paper and make sure that before we move all this dirt, that we're moving the proper amount of dirt and the proper depth and getting the right slope. We don't care what it ends up on the back side. We can, if it's steep, it doesn't matter. We can mow up and downhill if we had to. I don't think it's going to be that steep. We'll be able to mow it, so it's going to be all right. But we definitely want it sloping away from the house. So we're going to reset these posts in the ground in this hole, and then we'll come back and show you what we're doing. As we said a while ago, we want to put the front of the house. You're going to come up to the house, and there's going to be a step out here. Then you're going to step off of that step onto the porch itself. We're guessing roughly 16 inches for those 2 rises in elevation from the ground level out here to the porch area. So that's going to be about 2 cement blocks high. So that will be 18 inches high out here, right?
16.
So, yeah. I'm not mathing too good this morning. So 16 inches. Let's see here. I'm gonna mark, right? Again, this is all rough. We're trying to get the grade close so that the water drains away from this house as we're building it. When we come back to finish, we're gonna get it right, whatever we gotta do. So that's 16 inches, right? Mm-hmm. 16 inches to the ground. And I'm gonna move this down there. This is, exactly 16 inches. We got leveler than we thought we did. Down from there. So, basically we're going to be 2 blocks high right here on the back, just like we are the front here. So we've got this thing set, and this string's level, so 16 inches down was what we were planning for the front, 16 inches down from here for the back. But if you'll look, this ground right here is, there's a lot of dirt to move. Otherwise, that's going to be up on the wooden part of the house. We got to keep it down below the block level. And we want at least about a block exposed, and then the rest of it underground. Well, one thing you can look at here is when we put this hole here, if you'll look, get over that way once, Brian, let's show this. You can see that this drops off right here. Can you see that from the video?
Right over, you can see.
Okay, you can see I'm on top of a mound. That hill's coming down here. We didn't want to have this house site flooded full of water until we get in here building, which has been months. So we've got a mound of dirt here. So when the water comes down, it's washing around rather than going into the house site, and it kept us from having a swimming pool in here and washing everything away. So when that comes off, we're probably looking roughly a foot to a foot and a half, I'd say, wouldn't you? Mm-hmm. Drop off right there. So that puts us somewhere, let's see, that puts us about where our block was going to end. And that's just a little over a foot from what I can eyeball and see. Well, we'd like it down lower. We got to thinking about it. Good, you know, that's why you come in here and plan. This might seem simple, and a lot of people say, just go in there and dig the hole and put the house in there and then work it out. Well, we don't want to do that because we want to make it fit the property. And the fact is, we were so concerned with drainage on the back, having this hill sloping down towards our houses, we weren't thinking that much about the front. And we just got to talking about it, and the front of that house, the ground's flat. We're going to raise it up another block and then backfill the front side and slope it away from the house around the front porch and everything, so that any rain that comes down will wash away from the house out there as well. So we need to bring both of these up another 8 inches, basically, which would be another block. And by doing that, we're at 16 inches off the ground there, the current ground. So this will be 24 inches. 24 down to there. And let's go to the other end and do the same thing. And yeah, hang go from the ground. That's the easy thing. There's 24. Let's make sure the string level's right. It should be right on the money. So now we've got this house setting at 24 inches above the grade out here. We'll have 2 blocks sticking above the dirt, and that'll allow us room for a porch and a step down. And then that last block is going to be sloping downhill that way to keep the rain away from the house. Back here, when we dig this down, that is currently hitting about, oh yeah, we'll come below that. So that's the top of the block where the wood starts on the house, and that ground is lower than that. So by the time we slope it in, we're going to be down here. We'll be about a block or so low, and then we can slope. We'll take the box blade of the tractor and we'll slope this and just keep working it away from the house at a downward angle. And then whatever the other side works out to, we're just going to make it look pretty. We don't care what that angle is. We want to keep the water going away from the house. That's the main concern. So basically, first we determined what the slope of the land is out here so that we can go home and roughly on paper draw out a slope at that angle just to get a visual on what it's looking like out here. Now we've laid out in here, where are we going to set this house in the ground, and how deep do we want to set it so that our 40-inch crawl space ends up high enough out of the ground to give us the slope we want to keep the rainwater from washing into the house, because we need to slope that ground away from it. So I think we've got that determined, and you know, this planning We were thinking a block lower, standing up there, but it's a lot deeper here than we thought. So this paid off. And doing this little bit of preliminary work is going to save you from having to come back in here and fill dirt back in because you went too deep, or you have to say, well, now I'm going to have to use a whole nother course of blocks, which is going to be money. And if you're not doing it yourself, it's a lot more money because you got to pay somebody to do it. So a little bit of planning goes a long ways.
Well guys, we hope you enjoyed this. You know, it's kind of a technical, slow, mundane video, but if you're doing this work yourself, it really pays off.
Oh yeah, plan ahead.
Yeah.
Make sure you get things right initially up front.
Yeah.
Cuts out a lot of extra work in the long run.
It really does. And just seeing that we needed to add that extra block to my foundation.
Oh, definitely, yeah.
That was huge.
Yeah, you know, originally you were going 40 inches.
Yeah.
You might say, well, why go 40 inches? You could save money and go shorter. You could, but we are not short.
No.
And when he goes under a house,
you know I'm under there.
Time he's bouncing off them joists and pipes and everything else because he's so tall.
It's not fun.
Yeah.
And plus, it's not that much more money to go up a few extra block, and it saves us from digging out so much more dirt.
Right.
That's a huge savings.
Yeah.
In time and effort and everything. Just throw the block up and you're done.
4 foot's going to be nice. They give you plenty of room to get under there and crawl around.
Yeah, it's really going to be a lot better to work with.
Not that we're going to stay under there that much. But
no, but when you do go under, I don't like hitting my head, and it happens all the time.
Yeah, big baby. He cries all the time.
Yeah, basically.
Yeah.
So, coming up, guys, next video, we are going to be digging out around the house like we had talked about and showing you how we use the box blade. And we're not really angling the box blade. We're going to get into that more in the next video, but we'll show you how we dig out a trench. And that box blade is a lifesaver.
Yeah, it really is.
So stick around for that, guys. It's going to be a good video. If you like what you see, give us a big thumbs up. Hit that subscribe button below. Hit the bell next to the subscribe button so you get notified when new videos come out. Check us out on Instagram and Facebook. Have a good one, guys.
See you next time.